Hello everybody, my name is Evelyn of Pink Sheep Design and we are here today for a very special edition of Pink Sheep and Friends. So I know that Pink Sheep and Friends usually happens on Friday, but we have a very special guest coming on today to talk about something that I don't believe I have ever done as a maker. And that is a full-on collaboration with another maker that is actually in an entirely different creative area. So I'm super excited about this live and to share this with you. And this is also an announcement for a really big giveaway. And I realize I haven't done a giveaway in a really long time. I tried to go back and find my last giveaway, couldn't even figure out what it was. So this is not only a video to announce a really fun collaboration that I hope you guys end up being just as excited about, but it's also an opportunity to announce the giveaway, let you guys know how to enter and what that's going to be about. So without further ado, I am going to bring on my guest for today's Pink Sheep and Friends. Let's see, there she is. And this is Corrie of Koraigoods. So I will apologize ahead of time if there are any issues with our connection. I hope you guys will hang in there with us as well. So, hello!
It worked.
Yes. Woohoo. And you can hear me okay, right?
Yes. Can you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great.
It's a win. Yes.
Yay for technology.
Yes. And so just so you guys know, we actually did a call right before this just to be sure. Like, okay, we need to make sure that this will work.
Yeah. Well, I was telling you that I moved from Atlanta to rural Virginia. So we had to do some like tests first to make sure that this would even work.
Yes, exactly. So for anyone who, because, you know, we have very different audiences. And so I would love for you to do just a quick introduction, who you are and what you do.
Okay. My name is Corrie.
Jump right in.
I kind of call myself an accidental potter. It was it was not my field of study. My degree is in 2D. I have a degree in drawing. But I always loved the idea of creating something utilitarian, something tactile, and almost switched my major in college to ceramics, but I ended up not, somehow I decided that drawing would be more marketable. Mm-hmm. So, but I moved to Atlanta. I started going to all of the markets, which is where you and I had met. Mm-hmm. I was making...
And I met you when you were you were a jeweler. I mean, that was how I saw you. Yeah.
Right. And that was what, eight years ago?
Oh my God.
I know.
Something like that. I know. It's been a long time.
But when I was making jewelry, I was using a material called precious metal clay that essentially you sculpted just like a clay and then you fired in a kiln and it burned off the organic matter and then you're left with the solid metal. So that was sort of my re-entry into playing with clay. Mm-hmm. And I have another friend in Atlanta named Sophia, and she is a potter, and I met her at a show, and she said, hey, anytime you want to come play in my studio, you're welcome. And so I refer to her as the gateway. She was the gateway drug to me getting back into pottery. And it just sort of took off from there. And, you know, COVID hit, lockdown happened. People were at home more than they had ever been. And I think they started looking at their dishes and like what was on their walls and honestly, right? And that's kind of how my business took off, and I was able to sustain myself as a working artist. Was all of the home goods section of my website kind of blew up to the point where that's what I was doing full time starting, you know, the end of 2020.
And remind me, you worked in textiles for a minute, didn't you, when you were still working and going to markets?
Yeah, so I was working for, I think it was around 2.5 years. I was working for a company called Neva Opit, and she made leather goods. So
Gotcha.
I was the pattern cutter for her leather bags.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so that was fun too.
I always wondered that.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was saying that was really cool too, to hear that, because I had actually I'd seen a couple of posts where you mentioned that. Someone just said too that 2020 was the start of a renaissance.
Right. Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, you know, I wanted to give you guys all a little backstory too, that, you know, Corrie and I met, and I mean, I can't even remember how I first reached out or who reached out or how that worked. But the first time we met up for a swap. Like, we did a maker swap. We did you know, like, I was making crocheted crop tops at the time. She was making jewelry. And so we met up for a swap and did like a little photo shoot. I actually still have the photos from our photo shoot where, where she modeled my crop top and some of her jewelry, like, together, you know. So it was super fun. And, you know, I think that was the only time we really hung out, like, one-on-one outside of craft shows, you know, because we had quite a few shows where we were at the same show, close enough together to chat during the show. You know, but I do feel like Atlanta had a very interesting maker scene. It was kind of what you made it. Like, for me, it was a great thing. You know, I went to the right shows with the right people. It was very supportive. Met a lot of people that I still keep in touch with. You know, and I don't know if you felt the same way about that.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, I think that my core group of friends in Atlanta, I want to say at least 50 to 75% of them came from the maker scene. Because if you're really trying to hustle and figure out how to make a living as a creative, I mean, God bless you, first of all, but second of all, you are signing up for everything. You are for me, I was like, I'll do any show with a booth fee under $100. Like, I'll just do it. I'll sign up every weekend. I'll do however many big shows.
And it was every weekend.
It was every weekend. I was so, I mean, I was so tired.
Yeah. And we were lucky that it was fun. It's a fun scene there. If you're a maker in Atlanta, you know, you're going to be really tired, but it's going to be rare that you find a show that, even if you don't do well, like, we went to plenty of shows where, you know, you may break even, you know, but you meet so many great people. And I think that's what made it worth it, you know, even if you were just really worn out.
But I mean, that's how things like this end up happening. Is you and I obviously made a connection, and, you know, like you said, we didn't hang out every weekend, but I think that there was like a mutual respect and admiration for each other's craft. And I loved that I always felt that the door remained open with you for anything like this. And that's why I was telling you that, because you were like, explain how the yarn bowl came. And I was like, honestly, what ended up happening
let's go ahead and tell everybody the reason we're doing this is, that's perfect, because I'm realizing, I'm like, it's going to be like an hour and we'll never even have announced why we did the live. So Corrie reached out to me and asked if I would be interested in collaborating on a yarn bowl. So, of course, I'm like, holy crap, yes, but it has to be a jumbo yarn bowl because, as you guys know, that's pretty much all I use. And so if you guys are ready for a big reveal, and literally a big reveal because it is a big bowl, I will show you guys. So this, you guys can see, look how beautiful this is. OMG.
Yeah.
So
it's so fun.
This is when Corey says yarn bowl, this is exactly what she's talking about.
Yeah.
And you can see this is next to my head, on my head, so you can see, look how big that is. It even fits on my head.
Yep. I think
and
the measurements were 8 inches by 4 1/4.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And this is what so just so that you guys know a little background on yarn bowls, I have one yarn bowl and you know, I've been crocheting now for quite a while, and using chunky yarn. And I have one bowl that has been big enough to fit, you know, handmade, the jumbo chunky yarn in the bowl. And it was handmade. So that's when Corey reached out, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing because I can't find bowls this big, you know? So just so you guys know, Karen Chunky Cake, and if y'all know how big these chunky cakes are, right there in the bowl. So when I take this off of here, and actually I have another one I can show y'all that I undid. This is a big thing of t-shirt yarn. So this is hooked spaghetti t-shirt yarn. And I'll show y'all real quick just how easy this bowl is. So I'm going to start it. I'm not going to center pull because obviously I want to show that it works in the bowl. So let's put the yarn in here, and I'm going to pop it around this way. So if you're working out of it, perfect spin for t-shirt yarn. So there we go.
Cool.
And, you know, that's what was so cool is that I got to tell you the specs and the measurements, and like, this is what we would need for a jumbo yarn bowl to actually be functional for that super bulky range of yarn. And that's a win. I mean, that's perfect. So,
I'm so glad it worked. I'm so glad it worked. I know I went through a couple iterations. I cracked a few, like I was kind of all over the place. And then I was, when that one came out of the kiln and it was the right size and the glaze hit, I was just like, okay, this one is going to Evelyn. Here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was very exciting.
Well, and so you were saying, you know, you felt like the door was still open. And I think that's something that anyone who's watching this, like, to take that away of, you know, the connections are so important, whether it's in person or, you know, online, you know, just keeping that door open, make sure you're following them, interacting with them so that you don't forget who your people are and the people that you can, you know, have collaborations with, because, you know, I wouldn't have even thought about it, but like I have pieces from you that I've had now for so many years, and I have my newest one. I actually got to have one of your pieces of actual pottery from my sister-in-law.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
And and it has all of my it's got my little enamel tins in there. So
perfect. That's what it was made for.
But I would love, because something that really stood out to me and something I wanted to talk a little bit about was your aesthetic, because if you look at your Instagram page versus mine, they are very different aesthetics. Right. Just in, you know, the way that I use color, and, you know, you tend to have more of a neutral with the pops of color. And I loved this on your website. So on your website, it says, each piece is equal parts modern simplicity and organic imperfection. And like, I love that so much. This whole idea of like, it's handmade. It's not mass produced. It's not going to be exactly the same every time, but that's what's beautiful about it.
Right. I mean, that's been, honestly, I think that when I was trying to distill what my aesthetic was, I like the tactile nature pieces. I don't mind a thumbprint on something. I don't mind if there's a weird glaze drip, or
and like you can feel, like
right,
and you can feel it is tactile. I love it.
And that's why I pretty much everything I do, I don't do an all over glaze. I like having the naked clay body as part of the grip of the cup. I like the way that feels. Now, not everybody likes it if it's not glazed around the rim. So that tends to be the thing that happens, right? Is I'll make sure the rim is glazed. But, and I think that it's a really important thing that you pointed out, which is things are handmade. And that has been the biggest learning curve of the public, is like, I want something from you. Why does it take that long? First of all. Second of all is, well, this doesn't look identical, or this doesn't, you know, that's been the biggest, that's not the biggest thing. The lead time is the biggest thing, but like explaining to people that the uniqueness of each piece that you get holds its value. That's the value. Is that your piece doesn't look anything, or isn't exactly the same as someone else who orders the same piece. So it's uniquely yours. And that's the value that I place in things that I have that you've made. I love that. I know that I think I have the thing I have that's my most treasured thing from you is my shawl. You made like this triangle shawl. But I loved that. I was like, this isn't exactly the same as anyone else's. And that's my piece, you know?
And it's, we're not machines.
Right. Thank you. Yes, you just summed it up. I was long-winded. You just summed it up. Yes, we're not machines.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think we tend to push ourselves to try to make things perfect. Because I catch, both my husband and I do it all the time with the hooks, where it's like, well, God, this one, you know, it's not just like this one. It's not perfect. And then we just remind ourselves, well, duh, it's not. Like we're doing it ourselves, you know? So of course it's not exactly the same. You know, and I think we push ourselves to be that way because we feel like we have to be, like, you're kind of chasing that perfection. And even if it's not making things look exactly alike, it's making them to try to meet an expectation that's in your head. So even like for you, if you know that, you know, something is going to be unique and special, you still might be like, oh, but I don't know about that. You know, like, I don't know about this, you know, I wish this could have been different. But then we have to embrace that, you know, embrace that, but I still made it. And it's still, you know, it's still something that someone else can appreciate and love because it's not perfect.
And I say that, like, everything I make is made to be used. I want to see, I want to see the mileage on it. You know, I want to see the wear and tear. And that's, you know, that's what creates meaning. That's what creates something that's heirloom. That's what, like, when I was making the jewelry, I was making it, and a phrase that I used is that it was meant to be worn and to pass down or over. So, like, I made a piece of jewelry for 10 years, and a friend of mine is like, oh, that's amazing. Like, you know, can I get one or whatever? And I give it to my friend, and then she passes it down. Like, the lineage of people that wear or use the pieces that you make, you know, create the intrinsic value of the thing. And anyway, that's my lofty pottery.
Well, and I feel like one of the things that we have in common still as for our brands is this idea of functionality. Yes. Because I've always wanted my pieces, when it comes to mostly specifically for design. So like crochet patterns that I'll come up with and design. I want them to be truly functional. I don't want it to be something that someone just wears, you know, to take a picture for Instagram. Like, I want them to feel comfortable wearing it out, you know, to work or wearing it out and about and not having to mess with the fit. Like, I want it to just fit well and be comfortable and, you know, fit everybody's body. And, you know, it's just, you know, you want that functionality piece, because like you said, I want people to make things they actually want to use and actually want to wear and actually, you know.
Yes.
So I think we have that in common.
100%. And I think the work that you do, the fact that you create crochet patterns, first of all, blows my mind. I have no idea what you do. It's sorcery. It's magic.
Yours is too. So feel the same way.
So I think that this ended up, I mean, to go back to the collaboration thing, this ended up being kind of a natural fit, you know.
Yeah.
Like what I was starting to say is that the yarn bowl came about because I was scrolling through Instagram and you popped up in my feed, and I was like, well, why haven't I done a yarn bowl yet? Oh, maybe because I don't crochet. But I was like, Evelyn would be great to like have feedback from and like and to reach out to. So you so graciously helped me, like, these are the specs, this is what it should do, these are how many holes it should have. I didn't know.
Right.
But I think it turned into something really beautiful. And what I did want to mention too, and I know you had mentioned in some notes that I'm only going to make 75.
Yes. 75 of these bowls. And by the way, guys, these, so, and I didn't say this either, but these are available now for, I guess it would be considered a pre-order. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? So when they go to order these, like I said, you can order these now. I do need to add the link in my bio because I had not done that yet. But if you have a link to your shop in your bio, if you guys go to hers now, I'll be putting it up as soon as this is over. But you can order them now. And if you just want to talk a little about what that will mean once they order them.
Yes. So every listing on my website, unless specified in the listing description, is made to order. And right now, because it's post-holiday season, the lead time is down a little bit. So it'll take roughly 6 to 8 weeks to get your bowl to you. But that's because when your order comes in, you're immediately put in the queue, and then I make things as orders. Most of the time, it's a little less than that, especially in the first quarter of the year. But 6 to 8 weeks gives me a little bit of wiggle room so that people aren't yelling at me.
Happen. And things happen. Like, you know, I mean, you said it when you first started making these, and you've shared, I love that you share the posts too, that like, you know, especially as makers, we can end up like rushing ourselves, or, you know, we make mistakes and like stuff happens and like bowls break, pottery breaks, you know, and I think we have to give ourselves enough time to not always feel on edge of like, you know, have to do this, have to do this. We have to have breaks too, you know?
Right. Like, and I'm sure you've experienced, like, we're aging, our joints are not what they used to be.
We're talking about this.
so like I could pull 12-hour days every day if I wanted to, but like my hands wouldn't be what they need to be, you know, if I'm doing that. So I do need to be, that's another part of that lead time too, is I am trying to be kinder to my body. And not like overextend every aspect of my life. Otherwise, I won't be. So you can
do this longer. And that way you can be doing this longer.
Correct.
You know, I think none of us want to push ourselves to the point where, like, you know, a couple of years from now, a doctor's going to be like, yeah, you can't do that anymore. You know, like, what?
Right. Yeah. Sustainability is key. Like, especially, you know, we're on track to maybe buy a house. We're trying to have kids. We're trying to do the whole thing. So we need to do all of that. So I got to stay around for a while.
Exactly. So yeah, that's the big thing that we really wanted to share with you guys today. And we are doing a giveaway. So that was the other part of this announcement. Let's see what time it is. Okay, so in about 5 minutes, we'll hang out here and keep chatting a little bit, but Just going to let anyone know listening. I have a post scheduled that's going to be coming. It should. Fingers crossed that Instagram does what it's supposed to do. But the post is going to be published right at 12:30 Central Time, so just in about 5 minutes. And that is going to have all of the information for you guys to actually enter to win one of these bowls. So we're going to have one winner that's not only going to get one of these, but they are also going to get a goodie basket, kind of a Valentine's Day themed goodie gift set from me and the captain that's going to have a hybrid hook. So one of our 3D printed hybrid hooks. It's going to have some fun like tools and notions, and like, so it's going to be a great kind of gift set that you guys are going to get as part of the whoever wins the giveaway. So all of the information will be there. It's going to be pretty simple, similar to most giveaways you guys see on Instagram. You know, you're going to have to be following me and Corey. You're going to have to like the post. We are going to ask that you share it to your stories so that we can kind of get the word out about the giveaway, since, you know, you guys know the Instagram algorithm doesn't always want to show everything to everybody. And we don't want anyone to miss out on this one either, because like I said, I haven't done a giveaway in God knows how long, and this is a really big one. I mean, this is a really big giveaway. And what else was I going to say? Oh, so for this giveaway, it is only domestic, so it is only U.S. residents for this one, just because my biggest concern too is trying to ship one of these internationally right now. But maybe a future giveaway. I just wanted to make sure everybody knew, and I do have that. I will have that in the information that this will be a U.S. only giveaway for this one. But we're so excited. I mean, like, yay! He takes for real. Like, look how pretty it is.
I love that you demonstrated.
So I can.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I love that you demonstrated that it worked. So I was like, phew.
Well, and the great thing too, so here's what's awesome. What I like about the idea of having such a big yarn bowl, it's not just for chunky yarn, because what's really great is because you have the holes, and these are for color working, which I'll tell you guys, I didn't even know what the holes were for because I don't do color work. So I had to look it up because I was like, what really are they for? I was like, do you stick your knitting needles in there? Like, I don't know, I don't knit. So these are for color work. And what's great is that if you're working color work with smaller, lighter weight yarn, then you're actually going to be able to fit all of the lighter weight yarn in the bowl to do the color work. So that's really nice too, because in my head, I've seen, you know, the super tiny yarn bowls that have the holes in the side. And I'm like, I don't really know how you fit more than one of anything, you know, into the really teeny tiny bowls. So that's super helpful for that as well. But like I said, I tested it out with all of them, and I'll tell y'all too. So even though, let's look at, so this is a pretty common super bulky yarn that a lot of people buy, because you can get it a lot of places. It's Lion brand. Woolies Thick and Quick is what this yarn is. And so this one, you're not going to be able to push it all the way down in the bowl without it kind of being pushed, like squished. But when I use it, because like I said, I have one other yarn bowl that's this size, and even when it's like this and you're pulling it, here, I'll do it, it doesn't come out of the bowl. So that's why I didn't feel like it needed to be any bigger, because it actually like spins around in the bowl. You know what I mean? So like, it's not like, yeah. Well, I see, of course, now I was getting that, but that's normal for me. And that's what there we go. Now it's going. So yeah, so you can still use it that way. And then as it gets smaller, it, you know, falls down into the bowl more. But I used to use that when I don't do it as much now because I crochet on the couch more. I wish I had a table, but when I was at a table, I would crochet at like my dining room table. And if I didn't have a bowl, like my yarn was just going everywhere, you know, so I would end up having to use like a Tupperware box, you know, as my yarn bowl, because, you know, you just don't have big enough bowls, you know, for the bigger ones to fit into. So I'm super excited about that. But I would love to know from you, you know, I know that you love like the simplicity side of things and the minimalism, and I would love to know where you feel like that came from and kind of what inspired that for you, you know, just that aesthetic and what inspires you now, kind of where you pull new inspiration from.
Okay. Well, I can tell
I know,
you,
big question.
I know,
Hard one.
I know. I'm trying to think about that. I think most of my, you know, I'll say like adolescent adult life, I've been like a simple palette person. I mean, even in art school, I didn't use a ton of color. It was primarily pencil on paper. Like it was not, and I think that that's something that with me, it was trial and error, and it was design over time. And I feel like now it's probably the first time in my life I've had a real grasp on what my personal aesthetic is. Not just in what I wear, but in, you know, especially,
I think it takes getting into like your 30s. That's how I felt. Like it took me getting into my 30s to realize, oh, this is what I like.
Yes. No, absolutely. And I totally agree with that. And also like seeing, I think part of it too, when you're talking about design aesthetics of your products, it's trial and error, like seeing what people gravitate towards too. And then you end up with a very you can end up with a comfortable hybrid of this is what I love and I have in my house or wear on my person, but also this is the item that the majority of the people that come across my work tend to gravitate towards too, So I think with those things in mind, it kind of narrows the view and narrows the vision of what I end up making. But as far as like color palette right now and shape right now, you know, I'd mentioned that we made a big move from Atlanta to Virginia. We'd been looking we're in Matthews County. We'd been looking in Matthews County for a while, and had a couple. You guys know what home buying has been like, and we had offers fall through. You know, people were offering tens of thousands of dollars over asking, and it was just like, it was impossible, but we knew where we wanted to be, and it was this location, like this area. So we just decided, you know, my in-laws are lovely, and we're like, sure, you can just live with us until you figure it out.
Which is so helpful. Like,
Well, yes, and it helped truly narrow down like what we wanted in a property out here, because that's what we wanted, right? We wanted land, and we want to do like the chicken thing, and we want some goats, and we want to garden, we want to do all of that. And this lake where we are is coastal. We're on the Chesapeake Bay.
Oh wow.
So that's really what I was getting at, is I am now immersed in this environment that is both familiar because I grew up in Florida on the water, but foreign because the foliage is different, the animals are different. There's deer in our
You were making flamingos for a long time with your ceramics, which was amazing.
Right, which they'll always be there. I'm 6th generation Floridian, so that the flamingos aren't going anywhere.
You'll just buy a beach house one of these days.
100%. But like, I wonder if I can switch. I'm just going to see if I can switch the camera around. Okay, so this is my view right now.
Oh my gosh.
So we're right on the water. I know. So
That's amazing.
The color palette truly has come from everything I'm seeing on a daily basis, on our walks with our dogs, you know, on our afternoons outside, you know, driving around. It's really a reflection of this palette specific to the Chesapeake Bay. You're seeing more rust browns, you're seeing more sage greens and taupes and tans, and I'm really kind of loving what's happening, you know, and the beauty of all of that too is that it doesn't have to be the same in 6 months. It doesn't have to be the same tomorrow. But I like that this body of work that's come out more recently is like a time capsule of our 6 months that we've been here. And so it's a little, you know, sentimental.
Feels. Yeah.
Yes, feels.
Well, and it's almost like you have these collections. There's this kind of back to my roots collection
Yeah.
of Florida and what that has meant and how that, you know, comes out in my work. And then you have this collection of like as you've moved through life, which I think is amazing. I do have to ask, are you ever going to do jewelry again, or is it just your pottery only now, or is it just never say never? I don't know.
It's well, it's definitely never say never, because
Yeah.
there have been like, oh, sorry, hang on. I don't know how. Oh, wait, she answered it. Okay.
Heard a home phone in a while.
No, you're welcome. So I've made like accidental pieces of jewelry before, like for myself. Like, oh, this little
Yes.
piece that happened to form while I did this thing, or like a glaze runoff that created this beautiful color that I was like, man, I could glue this to an earring post, you know, like, so I think that there is room for that. And it's definitely something that I thought about exploring, this year, actually, probably summer, but, you know, but keeping it super minimalistic, keeping it really simple.
Yes.
And also kind of gauging interest, because there have been a few times where I've made pieces of jewelry and thrown it up on Instagram, and, you know, sometimes people are like, meh, you know, so I also, I don't want to like, I don't want to hyper focus on something if it's not, you know, one, if it doesn't gain traction, but two, the really important thing is making sure that it ends up true to my brand.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
So never say never, and possibly. That's my answer.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's a good answer. I mean, I think this is one of the reasons I love doing these kinds of live chats is because even though we're not sitting here like giving people advice, I think it's so helpful for people to hear if they, you know, whether they want to run their own business one day, or if they're you know, working on their own business now, or whether it's part-time or full-time, whatever it is, you know, the things that other people have done to grow their brand or try new things or explore new avenues can be really helpful to hear, you know, and like you can pull nuggets of wisdom, you know, of like, oh, well, this is what they're doing to try to stay true to their brand, and I think that's super helpful, you know?
Right. Well, and like, I like personal experience, that was happening most recently with you and I, you know, when we were talking about, you know, product design and t-shirts and like, who do you use? Who's the, I mean, it was, you were an invaluable resource to me, and I really appreciate that, because it's like that I knew I wanted, you want to create a thing, and you don't, you Google, and then you're left with 10,000, right? And you're like, man, I wish I knew someone or a group of people that have tried to do the same thing. Like, and I think that you're probably on the same page as me, as I want to be able to be that resource for somebody too. You know, I, you know, like, apart from coming over and making the thing for you, if you're asking me like about Shopify, or about printing, or about pottery, sourcing, or things like that, like, I know how helpful that was for me.
Yes.
When specifically women, it ended up being all women for me, in the industry, when they helped, and when they didn't keep things close to their chest, because they saw you as competition, or whatever the reason is. I think that helping the next person is really important. And that's also what creates sustainability in your brand too, because if you're not that person, that word's going to get out, you know?
Yeah.
If you're
exactly. Anyway. Yeah. And I think, I mean, I've had that happen multiple times too, you know, especially when we first started making our hooks, and, you know, we knew we had to coat them with something. Like, I mean, like we can't, you know, I don't know if you've ever seen something come straight off of a 3D printer, but it's, even if it's smooth, there's layer lines, you know, because the printer lays down each layer, you know, so you can see layer lines. And then if you try to sand it, it's just not very pretty, you know, so like, you know, you're going to have to coat it with something. And then it's like you said, you start Googling and like there's a million things, you know, so I started reaching out to other hook makers of like, you know, if you don't mind me asking, what are some of the things that you've tried for coating, you know, your hooks, whether that's clay or, you know, because most people aren't, I mean, I think right now we're the only ones who have, you know, made 3D printed hooks that are, you know, that we're selling regularly. I know people have tried and made them, and I've seen a few here and there, but, you know, trying to figure out, should we use resin? Should we use something else? You know, and I'm so grateful to the people who are like, well, here's what we tried, and here's what we found from trying this, and here's, you know, and obviously we make completely different, it's similar things, but we all have our different style. We all have a different aesthetic. And, you know, we realize too, and I wonder if you've come across this in the industry with pottery, but the people who buy hooks want hooks from everyone. So
Yes.
like,
Yes.
there's never like someone who's like, oh, I just want hooks from this person. Like, no, they're a collector. Like they want, if someone makes hooks or makes pottery, like they want from all different people, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I'm 100% guilty of that. Like I told my husband when we get our next place that I want a mug wall. Like I want cubbies. Yes. I want cubbies, and I, you know, and I want to be able to proudly display all of the different potters that I've come across and that I've ordered from. I mean, yeah. Anyway, so yes, 100%. People are collectors. Yeah. It is not just a one brand or one company.
Yeah. And I think it's hard to remember that. I think as someone making something, it's so quick for us to compare ourselves or be like, you know, maybe I should make something like this, or, you know, if they buy from them, they won't buy from me. But like we just said it, we know that's not true.
Right. Right. Right.
So it's always reminding ourselves that. And I think that's, it's difficult, but we have to do that. If we're going to be in the business for the long game, doing this for the long run, and not continuing to get down on ourselves, we have to remember that, you know?
Yes.
So
100%.
Well, the post is up. I have started seeing people commenting. So thankfully Instagram did what it was supposed to do, and the giveaway post is ready to go. So if you guys want to enter, especially if you guys have not seen this yet, because I know a couple people have joined since. But this is the yarn bowl that is being given away that Corrie and I collabed to make. I mean, she made it, you know, not me. But and just so I don't know if I showed you the inside, but the whole inside is glazed, which is great because you're not going to have, because obviously outside she likes to leave the tactile, which is lovely, and this is actually going to help it stick to whatever, you know, if you're putting it on a table, it's not going to be sliding around too much. Like if you've got a tablecloth, that's an issue I've had with other yarn bowls, is that they're so slippery. So this is great for that. And then the inside is all glazed, so your yarn is going to spin or move very easily on the inside of the bowl. But we are giving one of these away along with a gift pack, crochet gift pack from me and the captain, that will have a hook and some other wonderful 3D printed crochet goodies and notions, and just some like fun Valentine's Day themed stuff. So, you know, because that's what's coming up. But the post is up with all the information on how to enter to win. But these are also now for sale. So if you don't want to wait on the giveaway because you just have to have one in your life, like I needed one in my life, there are going to be 75, and that's it. So this is a limited edition run, limited edition collab on these jumbo yarn bowls. So be sure to check that out. And Corrie, I'm just so thankful that you sent me a message that it worked out.
It worked out beautifully, and you were such a help and such a joy to work with, and look for more of us in the future.
Yeah, more collabs are being brainstormed already as we speak. So be on the lookout. And if you guys joined in late, this Instagram live will remain on my feed, so you guys can rewatch the whole thing if you want to get to know more about Corrie, especially. So we got to talk quite a bit during this live. And then it will also be posted over on YouTube. So I've got my Maker Chat playlist, Pink Sheep and Friends playlist over on YouTube. So you guys can bookmark that there if it's easier for you to watch on YouTube. You can rewatch it there. It should be up in the next couple of hours, uploaded there. But here it'll be pretty much instant. Once this is over, I'll get it uploaded. But thank you. And I know that I'll have you back on. We'll definitely do this again. Okay. And I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week, because it is Monday. So, you know, Monday.
You I know. Have a great.
Well, we'll talk soon. And thank you to everyone who joined. And we'll see y'all soon. Bye, guys.